Greetings from Scouse Farm, and I'm in Clarke Gardens, which is a place I've been before because I did film a World War II pillbox, which was one of the defensive structures that were placed in predominantly coastal cities in Britain, just in case the Germans invaded and managed to get a beachhead formed and started getting further inland. So there was loads of defensive structures placed at strategic points, and Liverpool, being a port city, was very much a strategic point, so we have a lot of them, and there's one here, but that was a separate video. And in this one, it's thanks to my mate Tenko and his lovely wife Siobhan for telling me about what was a zoo, or at least a little mini farm petting zoo within the grounds of Clarke Gardens, which is where I am now. And behind this sandstone wall and these gates is what was a zoo, but there's nothing to show now, and to stop all the vandalism getting worse, as you can see, it's chained off, so there's no point going in there. But over that way, that's where the zoo used to be, and that's where we are now. So without anything to show you there, I'm going to walk you around and show you the main house itself, which was the old Allerton Manor house. And there was a house here originally built by the Latham family in the 1400s. The Lathams were very prominent landowners in this part of the world after the 1066 invasion. So they were one of the families who benefited from being given loads of land to look after. And this Clarke Gardens itself, I remember it as a kid in school. We used to have to do cross country up this way, and it was one of my least favourites. I don't know why, but I was quite good at running, and I never liked Clarke Gardens. I never did well here for some reason, so maybe it doesn't like me. But I'm going to walk you through this little wooded area now, and then we'll pop out by the house. And as mentioned, originally there was a house in the 1400s, but what's there now is what I'll talk about, because it is a striking example of wonderful architecture, built with local stone as well. Because for those who live around this way, you'll know Woolton and in towards Gattaca, there were a lot of quarries. So a lot of the sandstone houses you see in Liverpool, including the gorgeous Anglican cathedral, were made predominantly using stone, locally quarried. And Richard Percival bought Allerton, the manor, in 1630, and he owned it until 1736. And then in 1736, a fella called John Hardman, who was a merchant from Rochdale, he purchased the land on the grounds, and that's when parts of the building that you're about to see got started. So the earliest parts of the sandstone building were built soon after Hardman moved in, and it is absolutely fantastic, and you're about to see it when I pop out of the wood. But it was an early form of Palladianism, which is one of the reasons as well why it was grade 2-star listed, which is a very high classification of listing, just below the top one, which is grade 1. Can I go this way? Lost already. But yeah, it's an early example of Palladianism, which is a type of architecture named after Andrea Palladio, who is an Italian designer born in 1508, died 1580. And his designs were inspired mainly by the old Roman and Greek designs, and a lot of it, he liked neatness, so symmetry was important. And you'll see when we pop out that there's quite a lot of symmetry in these buildings. And when I was mentioning before the defensive structures from the war, I think I found also what is a dragon's tooth, which is this triangular structure you're looking at now. It might be one of the old dragon's teeth, or it might just be to stop people walking up this road. But that is what they look like. They're all like reinforced concrete stone structures to stop tanks getting into certain places. So you can imagine if you were a tank driver, you're not going to get through a load of them. It's going to slow you down quite a bit. But that one may or may not have been one of the dragon's teeth, but that's what they look like. And I have filmed some of them in Mossley Hill, because there's a few of them near one of the railway bridges. Take you around the back, because the building I'm going to show you is now like a hotel and a cafe and a bar, so it's always busy during the day. But after passing then through the hands of the Hardmans, the property was bought by the famous abolitionist William Roscoe, who was a good old famous Scouser, born 1753, died 1831. Look at that in the background there, absolutely gorgeous. And William Roscoe started knocking down some of the old derelict original building, and then he wanted the house to be more, again, symmetrical, moving into the hands of Palladianism again. So the old parts were demolished and he wanted to add new rooms to balance the design. And I think I'll just walk down this bit and then we'll get a close-up. I'll zoom in when we get round. And that was in, I believe, 1799. And William Roscoe, being, just while I'm walking around, he was one of the original people who was briefly in Parliament. So he was a member of Parliament briefly, but he was one of the first to say, like, you know, we need to stop slavery and any involvement of Britain in slavery. So that's why he's famous across the world as one of the first abolitionists. And before he did leave Parliament, he did cast his vote to end slavery completely. And I think that was around 1806. I can't quite remember, but that's why a lot of people around the world who are watching from overseas may have heard of William Roscoe. But look at that. As I say, I don't want to go right up there. There's people, well, this dog's coming after me now anyway, but there's people walking dogs and going in for a bite to eat. But what a stunning building. And the house, unfortunately, had to be sold because William Roscoe fell into bankruptcy as he was involved in banking. He was very, very high up in the world of plant genetic modification and trying to bring new species of plant into life. And he's also famous in Liverpool for, if you've been down Wavertree Way, you'll have heard of the Botanic Gardens. And the Botanic Gardens, he was one of the founding members of that. And some of the original plants he did bring over are still able to be seen within the walled gardens of Croxteth Hall, which at some point I will go and film. But yeah, he ended up bankrupt due to his involvement with an international bank of some description. And he did sell all the property, but luckily a few of his friends got together and he was able to sell it to a political ally called Patterson Elmes, or Elms, I don't know how to pronounce it, but it's spelled Ellames, I think, and that's who he sold it to. And he then rented it to a cotton merchant called Richard Wright, who in July 1861 flew the Southern Confederate flag off the top of the building you're looking at now, because he was a cotton trader and he wanted to stay friends with the southern states and those who owned the cotton plantations. So he showed his support for their side in the American Civil War by flying a Confederate General Lee flag off the top of this building that you're staring at now. And the house then passed through another owner before finally being bought by Thomas Clarke, and that is the family, the Clarke family, who the grounds are named after, Clarke Gardens. And that's where we stand at the minute. His widow, after he passed away, his widow Jane, then donated the house and the land to the city of Liverpool, so to the Liverpool Corporation, in 1926. And today, as mentioned before, it's a grade 2-star listed property, and there's some gates and piers and railings over the other side, so you can't see, but over that way you come out onto Walton Road, and there's some lovely railings around there that are also grade 2 listed in their own right, but it'd take too long to walk over and show you them. And the pillbox that I filmed, if you are in this area, there's the car park. I'll just point you over to it now, by that bin. So when you come in the main entrance, then, you know, you go over by that bin there, there's a car park, and then further over, keep going over that way, just on the frontage you'll see the pillbox. So it's worth a little look if you're popping around. And I think the reason, when I filmed that video, there wasn't any real main reason why the pillbox was there. It was a bit confusing because it's not near the coast, and it just seems to be protecting this building. But it turns out that this building that you're looking at, in the background of this fantastic tree, which looks like it wants to give me a hug. But yeah, this building was the regional headquarters of the National Fire Service during World War II. So I can imagine maybe that's one of the reasons the pillbox was placed here, because you'd want to protect the people who are going out to put the fires out after the Luftwaffe have bombed large parts of the civilian areas of Liverpool. Let's give you another little view from the side. It is a striking building. I love how it's weathered over time. You can see on the side you've got a lot of dark colouring on the sandstone, so it's not just completely red anymore, particularly on that fascia there on the end. And the rest of it, as you can see, it does, you know, you've got your protruding block on the end, your one on this end, and then you've got your 4 pillars in the middle. And that is a prime example of what I mentioned before about Palladianism. So it's all neat and tidy and symmetrical, so it looks good to the eye and it's pleasing to stare at. Well, it is to me. I think it's a phenomenal building. But yeah, thanks again to Tenko, my mate, and Siobhan for telling me about that skanky zoo at the back. I think they just wanted me to go in there and cut myself on brambles, but as a little place to come to walk the doggies, as you can hear in the background, it's a cracking spot. Loads of parks around here, and from recent videos you'll have seen I've filmed in Allerton Towers as well, so there are a lot of places around here to walk your dogs. Playground there in the background for the kids, and then within Allerton Hall there's a bar, so that's for the parents. Right, that'll do you. Thank you all very much for watching. Have yourselves a great day, and Scouse Farm, we'll see you all again soon.